Shalom. This morning I want to make this little short video based on some things, some questions that I have been asked. There are many of us striving to serve the Most High, and but we don't always do the same things, and sometimes the things that we don't do alike creates conflict, and so that is not the desire for this video. It's not designed to to breed no type of conflict or to get into no debate. It's somewhat of a personal video according to some of the questions that I've been asked. I don't know everything, and some things I ain't as versed on as other people are. So I don't get into that stuff. You have to understand that some people just know more than you. But however, the Father knows the heart of all of us, and by His Spirit He leads us to truth and information as we grow. And so I just want to share my perspective where Passover is concerned. But before I do, I would like to look at some of the things that Paul wrote, which I think is important, because Paul understood that there were different levels of understanding and people did things differently, but the underlying motive, end up being the most important thing. So before we get in here, let's just read this scripture right here. And keep in mind, this is mindful, we still talking about some questions that was asked of me according to the Passover. So the only thing that I can relate is my understanding according to the scripture. Like I said, this is not for debate, because no one person knows it all, and everybody does things for a different reason. Areas that I don't know much about, I try to learn about them. So verse 14 of chapter 14, Romans chapter 14, verse 1. Him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations. All right. And so it says in verse 5, one man esteems a day above another. Another man esteems every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. And that's important. We do things for different reasons, but each man had to be fully persuaded in his own mind. He had to do things based on the convictions that he has in his heart. And none of us have the right to put our convictions on other people, even when they're contained in the scripture. Because unless the Spirit enlightens the eyes of a man's understanding, he can't receive it no way, even though it's penned in the pages of the book. So one man esteem one day above another, another man esteem every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regardeth unto the Lord, and he that regardeth not the day to the Lord he regarded it not. Okay, so you see the difference. One man holds one day in a high esteem. Another man, one man regards the day that he holds in high esteem unto the Lord, and the person that does not regard the day in high esteem, the reason why he does it is for the sake of the Most High as well. You see, there's a spirit in there, you understand what I'm saying, that is convicting men's hearts, and their conviction is totally different. Many times this is what causes opposition between us. One man's being persuaded in his heart is doing something completely different from another man that's being persuaded in his heart. And it makes us think that one of us is wrong, one of us is wrong. Well, that's not what the book said. It said one man regarded it unto the Lord, and he that regarded not the day, to the Lord he doth not regard it. Both of them are doing what they're doing for the sake of the Most High. All right. He that eateth to the Most High, for he giveth the Father thanks. He that eateth not to the Lord, he eat not, and he give the Father thanks. There we go again, both of them. So let's take a look at what we was talking about dealing with Passover. I will show you, let's see at chapter 12 of Exodus. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the house be too little for a lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts on the upper door post of the house, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw nor sodden, all with water, but roast it with fire, his head, his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And ye shall let nothing of it remain in the morning. That which remaineth up until in the morning shall be burned with fire. And thus ye shall eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. All right. It was the Lord's Passover because he's going to pass through Egypt and kill the Egyptians, the firstborn of the Egyptians. And so the lamb had to be slain and put on the doorpost of the house. And they had to eat this with unleavened bread with haste because they had to get out of there. He said this was the Passover. Okay, as they were being released from Egypt. Okay, so I'm just giving you my understanding of what Passover is to me. As they were released from Egypt, this was the Passover, establishing their releasing from Egypt when the death angel passed through Egypt and killed the Egyptians and then set the Father's people free. This was the Most High's Passover. This is what they was to do in remembrance. However, we know that the children of Israel went back into Egypt again. All right. So they were released, and this Passover identified with their being released from Egypt. But they went back into Egypt again. They went back into bondage again. So did the Father send the death angel and then reenact the whole new? Well, no, he didn't send no death angel. He didn't send a death angel. He sent a sacrificial lamb to release them from the spiritual bondage that the Father had put them back in when he separated them from the covenant. Okay, so we skip over into the book of Matthew and we look at the Messiah. It said, verse 26 of the 26th chapter, and as they were eating, Jesus took the bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, Take and eat. This is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of the fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. And there the Messiah told them the rest of the story. Okay? Now, this is what I call the second Passover. One Passover in remembrance from coming out of Egypt. The next Passover, we're in remembrance of being delivered from Egypt again and the spiritual bondage that we were in through the sacrificing of the perfect lamb, which was the Messiah. who is also known as the Lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world. He said, as often as you eat this bread and drink this wine, it represents my body, which is sacrificed for you, and my blood, which is spilled for you, that you may find a releasing from the spiritual bondage through your sin going into remission. And as often as you eat, you remember what I done to you. The same way that some of our brothers remember what the Most High done when he brought us out of Egypt by sparing them from the death angel and giving them the Passover to remember that day, commemorate that day. Some of our brothers are in remembrance of the fact that the Lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world was the perfect Lamb that was slain, and our sacrifice to be released from the spiritual Egypt that the Most High said, I will bring you back into again. And so we go back to Romans, and Romans said one man regarded the day and another man regarded not the day, but both of them regarded to the Most High. Every man had to be fully persuaded in his own mind, okay? Because so one group is going to celebrate the Passover the old-fashioned way in commemorance of what took place with the death angel and coming out of the first Egypt. Somebody else is going to commemorate the Passover according to the things that the Messiah spoke, and eat and drink this bread not just once a year, but they're going to do it quite often, like a church has communion once a month in remembrance of what the Messiah had done. And it is not for any of us to determine or draw a line and say, well, this person is wrong because they don't do it this way. This person is wrong because they don't do it this way. And we understand that the book said you should do these things throughout your generations, okay? Okay, well, see, when we fell and went back into Egypt again, another way was made for us so that we can be able to do these things throughout our generations. But there will be some things that we do differently because our understanding of the scripture is differently. The man that clings to the understanding that he finds in the book of Exodus is no greater than the man that clings to the understanding that is found in the book of the book of Matthew. And both of us may do something different, but we both do it in our honor and reverence and commemoration of what the Most High had done. Whether he done it through a physical lamb that our ancestors slain, or whether he done it through the lamb which is the only begotten of the Father, whether he done it through having him slain. Both lambs were slain for the Father's people. And so I just wanted to put this out here. This is my understanding. It's not about a debate. It's not about any of that. You understand what I'm saying? It's about being able to bridge the gap and bring about some unity amongst the house of Israel so that we don't be doing all of this fighting. So I'm going to go back to Romans and I'm going to read this again just because of clarity. Him that is weak in the faith receive, but not to doubtful disputations. Everybody don't have the same understanding. But the book saying is that them that don't have the same understanding, you that have an understanding, you must receive them, but not to doubtful disputations based on the things that you understand. One man esteem one day above another, another man esteem every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind while he is doing whatever it is he is doing, because it is the Most High that sees the heart and the intent of the heart. No man had the capacity to see what's in your heart. He that regarded the day regarded unto the Lord. He that regarded not the day to the Lord, he doth not regard it. You're doing the different things, but both have honor and respect and are doing things based on the understanding that the Father has given them. And so, you know, there are always some issues that pop up that cause us to be going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But here, the book makes it clear that we can both be doing things that are different and still be doing them for the sake of the Most High. And so, I got brothers on both sides. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm trying to learn a little bit more about, how they perceive things, or, if I can understand how you perceive your perception on a situation, then that helps me understand, how you arrive at this trade of thought, or why you do it like this. It's not something that we war against each other. So right now, I'm just giving you my understanding where the Passover is concerned. Some people can go way into depth, but in my understanding, the Messiah was the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world to release us from the bondage that we went into again after we had fallen from the covenant. We ended up in the same place that we was in before the death angel ever even came. We ended up in Egypt. We end up in the same place. Okay? And so that is just my understanding. And the Messiah, the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world, became my Passover, so that my sins could go into remission and I could be set free from the spiritual Egypt that we went into the second time. All right? So that is my understanding. And I always say, these brothers out here, I got some brothers out here that's sharp as knives. But in order for anybody to ever help you to move along, they must first be able to understand your train of thought. How did you arrive at the thought process? And then it can come along and, okay, well, I can add to them in this area, or I can add to them in that area. And that's vice versa. That's on either side. Because the Father have not given everybody everything, but he have given all of us something that is designed to help each other. So I say peace and shalom. We're coming up on this Holy Sabbath, and what our brothers, what we know as the Passover coming up, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All these things is contained in the scripture, and so we just gave you two sides of it, two traits of thought of it, and so I hope that if it don't do nothing else, it makes somebody think. The Bible tells us with all we get an understanding. But the reality is that we all don't understand everything. But we must